coercion, and sexuality in society. These are the topics for the Frankie Files. I'm Frankie Tease, your host, and I'll continue to focus on my own family story as well as news and recovery info for those who've survived, especially the adult children of cults. New each Tuesday. See FrankieFilesPodcast.com for more. Hey everybody, and welcome to Frankie Files Podcast, Top Cult 2022 Stories. During the year, we saw trials, convictions, documentaries, news articles, tell-all books, and some awareness raised that politics breed cults too. The UK began implementing laws on coercion, and in New York they lifted the statute of limitations, making all sexual crimes fair game in court for a year in a social experiment. Why do I feel this is part of the story here? Because so many cults hide sexual assault in their ranks, including the military. Let's get into our top cult stories in no particular order here. This year, cult survivor and U.S. Army intelligence officer told her story to the world, articulating how in two different cults, this type of thing was all too common. Stunning those who dared to read her words, told to her, such as "don't get raped," and that one by the military, and bringing conversations to the world few had boldly brought about systemic abuse in religious settings, including trafficking and sex assault. The courage required to have these discussions should not be ignored, and I applaud Daniela M. Young. Who is Daniela M. Young? Same name on Twitter. Who took the time to write her memoir Uncultured, which was widely released via St. Martin's Press in 2022 in Europe and United States. It handled rape culture like no one has before in both Children of God and the U.S. military. Our interview for Frankie Files Podcast was quite an experience. That's episode 18. The next cult on my list is Scientology, a worldwide organization which is facing a triple plaintiff child labor trafficking suit, while this year also saw a rape trial with multiple Jane Does proceed to get tossed out as a mistrial due to some technicality against member Danny Masterson. I guess the glove didn't fit. The groundbreaking podcast called Fair Game by co-anchors Leah Remini and Mike Rinder did not in fact return as expected in August, according to their announcements. I would recommend checking into that. Scientology continues to be in the news on multiple fronts. Next, the Epstein sex ring cult saw more news when Ghislaine Maxwell was charged with sex trafficking and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Many are calling for the client list to be released. That's Epstein's client list, which are nowhere to be found. This conjectured to involve Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and many more affluent elite. Netflix documentaries covered some cults not mentioned here: Way Down, Orgasm Cult. That's the one taste out of Silicon Valley area in California, among many others. Next, La Luz de Mundo was a heart-wrenching trial for multiple reasons. The church at 100 years plus has a practice of child sex trafficking for clergy. This for generations. But while their churches exist in multiple countries and are headquartered in Mexico, it was Los Angeles who finally enacted a conviction of Nason Joaquin Garcia, the current leader, for child pornography and forced sexual acts of minors, as well as trafficking, for 17 years, a ridiculously low sentence. There were issues in trial by the plaintiff's attorney for the Jane Does, and he got off light on a technicality, as they often do. The Jane Does wanted a trial, at which time much more information would have come out, and he would have most likely received an incredibly harsher sentence. It was truly an abomination, as is the Luz de Mundo Church. There was a brief documentary on this event on HBO Max too recently, but rumors abound that people who spoke out were borrowing other people's stories. Some of the people claiming abuse also helped in grooming. The story is awful and multi-layered. It definitely was at the top of the list as some justice was served. NXIVM The Vow Season 2 was released and examined some events which were revealed in the trial and some which had not been. Branding the body, a secret sex cult, and so much financial abuse was in play. Many still believe in the teachings and techniques used in NXIVM and dismiss that the leader Keith Raniere was convicted. It doesn't taint the teachings. People think that. They're expecting camps to keep NXIVM going. In addition, during the federal case, the training materials were seized by the government agency. Check out the Frank report for more. Some good coercion stuff in there, I bet. He knew how to get one over on people. NXIVM leader Keith Raniere is enjoying a group of supporters who still have not seen the light. Watching this conditioning of members keep going played out in public is sad indeed. People are worshiping members of leadership of NXIVM still. In fact, the people who had centers and were teachers still believe in some of the techniques. What we see with NXIVM is dangerous and indeed a cult. Pay attention to this, as there are still so many active believers of this cult who haven't woken up. In 2022, others who got a light shone upon them include Jared Leto. Who's this guy and why am I including him in the cult roundup for 2022? There is a bit here to unpack. Jared Leto is an actor and singer in the band 30 Seconds to Mars. According to grunge.com, quote, Jared is a big believer in the power of music to bring people together. They quoted him saying there are chemicals released when people sing together that are similar to the chemicals that are released when people are in love. The band set a Guinness World Record for most live shows during a single album cycle in 2011 with 309 concerts. He released a very disturbing, in many ways, music video called Hurricane, and that's banned worldwide. He also played the Joker in a film which was almost completely cut out due to his dark portrayal. Back to the article, quote, he calls himself a cult leader. Describing Jared Leto as having a cult following isn't just a play on his rock star persona, complete with flowy Jesus hair deserving of its own Pantene commercial. It's unclear what Jared's religious background is. In a 2016 interview with GQ, he told publication, I don't believe in a God who sits in conscious judgment of the actions of humanity. Religion aside, Jared's band has an extremely devout following. His fans, mostly young women, are known as the Echelon and follow him wherever he goes. But he's taken it to the extreme. He now encourages his fans to join him on an island he calls Mars Island. Look into that. Leto is quoted, yes, this is a cult, as a way to talk about their loyal fans, according to Newsweek, January of 2023. Quote, it's a joke, Leto says. You have such a cult following. We have always had incredibly committed people following us. If people like 30 Seconds to Mars, they really, really, really like it. The Morbius actor said in an interview with the New York Times. Oh yeah, nice cover, dude. But inviting fans to a private island in Croatia, then dressing everyone in your echelon, mostly very young women, in white and floating your Jesus hair. This is right in our faces, guys.
You're listening to The Frankie Files. FrankieFilesPodcast.com.
Next, the under-discussed Fellowship of Friends. The ideology came on my radar when I covered the Google incident. First, what is the fourth way? From an article on frankietease.substack.com, June 21st, 2022, a 20th century Greek Armenian philosopher and one of his students believed a higher consciousness was possible. The leader claims he had visits from famous artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Whitman, etc. Fourth Way believes that a higher consciousness will be accomplished through fine art, and they have 11 million worth of art just in ancient Chinese antiques at a Northern California location. They also produce wine. Google buys wine for the department's social and promotional events. This unfolded to a lot of pressure to one employee to interact with the cult and its products. An excerpt from the Times reads, New York Times corroborated many of the lawsuit's claims through interviews with 8 current and former members of the Google business unit. The suit, which Mr. Lloyd filed in August in California Superior Court, accuses Google and ASG of violating a California employment law that protects workers against discrimination. It is in the discovery stage. Mr. Lloyd claimed he was fired last year because he complained about the influence of the religious sect. Liana Shanti, who you may or may not have heard of, has also grabbed attention using Fourth Way teachings, integrating Jesus and many New Age ideas in a curriculum. She tours and she is not selling for cheap. She wants to heal people of mother or father wounds, and shamanism is a way she offers certification to do it. She's out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and offers the following on her website, only as one example. 12DB School is for you if you are ready to learn a new way of attracting the perfect audience, clients and buyers with energy, abundance mindset, and flow. Okay, well, that training is $3,900 or 10 payments of $449. So we see this is all about cash, huh? It's New Age religion capitalism, just like the church I survived, Morningland community. They're in the news here too for 2022. Because they've reacted to my podcast and people are beginning to contact me that survived their church. We have a lot of time to account for and the timeline of news, and we're working on that. It's news because my family's separation and sexual abuse in interviews is finally coming out in 2022. The trafficking and the timeline is now out there. The cult Morningland community is now in its 50th year and a holdover of the original leaders who are deceased. A lot has happened since I left in 87 after surviving my 12 years there from 8 to age 22. The female leader deceased in 2003 is buried under the property. Yeah, not weird at all. I'm in contact with members who are not only commenting on the story, but will be interviewed soon. I'm looking forward to bringing you a lot more information on this Long Beach, California cult. In 2022, Larry Ray was also convicted on all charges. He was sentenced to 60 years in prison. The man who embedded himself in the townhouse dorm at Sarah Lawrence College in New York under the guise of visiting his daughter, fresh out of prison, began working on her college housemates immediately. He created a cult where he was their mentor in all manners of life, including money and sex. I went to justice.gov to get the quote. January 20th, 2023, Larry was sentenced to 60 years for racketeering, conspiracy, violent crime, in aid of racketeering, extortion, sex trafficking, forced labor, tax evasion, and money laundering offenses. Ray was sentenced today by United States District Judge Louis J. Lyman after being convicted at trial in April 2022. I'd like to make a note here of what the charges were. The word coercion is not used, which is how he got them to do stuff. Tricks, lies, manipulation over a decade where he ruined these young people's lives. They had nothing but hope in studies and degrees and good jobs in front of them, and he separated them from their families and destroyed them sadistically. He's a cult leader, and he used manipulation and coercion to do it. This year, I hope to see laws about coercion enacted in following suit with the UK. Coercion is in groups or individual relationships, and it's the same tactics used on battered women and prostitutes by pimps or abusive husbands. Cult leaders are abusive, and many times they do it all with words. Mine did. This isn't all the cult stories of 2022 by any means, but it is a few our show covered and has been following. Check out my Substack at frankietease.substack.com for more. The show will resume full episodes February of 2023 through November of 2023. New each Tuesday. Thank you for listening. Keep critical thinking and questioning. It's just a healthy state of mind. Cults, coercion, and sexuality in society. These are the topics for the Frankie Files. I'm Frankie Tease, your host, and I'll continue to focus on my own family story as well as news and recovery info for those who've survived, especially the adult children of cults. New each Tuesday. See FrankieFilesPodcast.com for more.